He opens his eyes, and nothing is familiar. Not the sky, not the dirt beneath him, not even the hands attached to his arms. The last thing he remembers is a frayed cable on the 12th floor, 4 seconds of free fall, and then this.
2 suns hang above him, one white and blazing, one dim and reddish like an infected eye bleeding at the horizon.
He sits up slowly and stares at his hands, soft, pale, not a single callus, not a trace of motor oil, not one scar. 11 years of his life have been erased, along with his body, and what remains is something fragile and hollow. He clenches the borrowed fingers into a fist, unclenches them, watches them tremble. They work, weakly, but they work.
Brown grass rises to his knees in every direction, and there are no roads, no power lines, no landmarks.
Only one thing breaks the emptiness, a thin wisp of smoke curling up from somewhere to the northeast. He stands. He staggers. His head swims with a hunger that tells him this body had already been living a miserable life before he arrived in it. Ribs protrude through the skin. Bones jut from the wrists like door handles. His clothes are tatters, a shirt full of holes, pants held up by a rope, no shoes, no knife, not a single coin. He has landed in a foreign world, inside a foreign body, without a single resource. And he does not yet know that this is the easy part. Then the map appears. It lights up directly before his eyes, transparent and glowing like a monitor suspended in midair. He flinches back. The map follows him, floating at arm's length, indifferent to his reaction. He passes his hand through it. Only light, but light that carries information. A full continent spreads before him, mountains to the west, a coastline to the east, rivers and lakes and forests rendered in pale color. And then there are the markers, bright and pulsing, scattered across the land like wounds. The first marker sits on a river east of center, blue, with a symbol he doesn't recognize at first. Then it clicks, water, flood, a number, 8 months. The second marker sits further south, brown, with a single word he will eventually learn means earthquake, 14 months. The third is yellow, further still, drought, 2 years. Beyond that, the markers come faster, each one larger than the last, the intervals between them shrinking. He scrolls through to the end of the map, 7 years. The final marker pulses at the heart of the continent. A red dot, no caption, no symbol, no explanation, just a slow, heavy beat, like a massive heart. And beyond it, the map ends. Emptiness. He is barefoot on a foreign plain, looking at the end of the world, written in light only he can see. The map offers no advice. It explains nothing about who brought him here or why he was given this knowledge. Dry data, coordinates, dates, what to do with them, decide for yourself. He tries to wave it away. It refuses to leave. It is stuck to him like a shadow. He looks northeast, toward the smoke. Smoke means fire. Fire means people. People whose language he doesn't know, in a world he doesn't understand. But 8 months before the first strike, standing still isn't an option. He walks. His bare feet sink into the ground. The grass cuts his ankles. Every 200 steps, dizziness forces him to stop and wait. 3 hours later, from the top of a gentle hill, a village appears below him. 40 houses, maybe fewer. Mud brick walls, thatched roofs, cattle pens, vegetable gardens, women at the well, children on the road. He checks the map. The village sits on the only hill in sight. The flood marker to the east points to a river that will burst its banks in 8 months, and its water will swamp the lowlands, but stop short of this hilltop. This village will survive the first blow, not because it is strong, but because it is standing in the right place.
He walks down toward it.
A boy of about 10 spots him first, freezes in the road, then turns and sprints for the houses. A minute later, 3 men come out to meet him, strong, tanned, faces worn into wary expressions. One holds something that looks like a hoe. They speak. He understands nothing, not a single sound he can connect to anything familiar. He stands before them, dirty and barefoot in torn clothes, and he stays silent because speaking is useless. One of the men steps forward, says something sharp, points away. The gesture means, "Get out," and that part needs no translation. He doesn't leave. He points at the ground beneath him, then at the sky, then cups his hands and spreads them wide. Water. Big water. Coming. The men exchange glances. The one with the hose says something. The others laugh. One shoves him in the chest. He falls. He gets up. They shove him again. He gets up again. The third time, they don't shove him. They hit him across the face with an open palm, the way you'd swat a stray dog that won't leave. He goes to his knees. His mouth fills with copper. He spits, and he stands up. The men look at him, not with hatred, but with irritation. A vagrant spouting nonsense. Business as usual. They point him toward the road. He looks at them, then at the village, then at the map that only he can see. 8 months. When the river floods the eastern valley, hundreds will lose their homes and thousands will lose their food. And every one of them will go somewhere, and some will come here, to the only high ground for miles, in numbers this village cannot absorb. He has to stay, at any cost. He spots the cart at the edge of the village. Broken wheel, a man mid-repair, tools scattered on the ground. He walks toward it. Someone grabs his shoulder. He shakes free and crouches beside the wheel. The axle is bent, not broken, bent. He has seen this 100 times on outdoor air conditioning frames, on mounting rails, on brackets. The principle is identical. The metal is deformed but intact. He needs a fulcrum and a lever. He finds a rock by the fence and a length of pole from the cattle pen. He positions the rock under the axle, sets the pole, and pushes down. The axle moves on the first try. Not perfect, but good enough. The wheel settles back into its groove. The man who had been repairing the cart goes quiet and still. He looks at the wheel, then at the stranger, then back at the wheel. It isn't victory. It is a moment of attention. A single repaired axle buys no friendship, but it buys more than useless words in a language no one shares. He straightens up and points at the ground beneath his feet. "I'm staying here." The man with the hoe looks at the cart's owner. The owner shrugs, not approval, more like exhausted indifference. Do what you want. They give him no house, no food, no blanket. He finds a strip of dry ground under the eaves of a barn at the village's edge and sits with his back against the mud brick wall. The map glows through his closed eyelids. He is alone, without language, without tools, without a single ally, in a body that can barely hold itself upright. And he has a doomsday schedule that only he can see. For 11 years, he went out on service calls no one else wanted. Rooftops in 40-degree heat, broken compressors, seized drill bits, ladders that buckled. He is not a hero, not a prophet, not a chosen warrior. He is an air conditioning technician who died because of a frayed cable and woke up in a world that is scheduled to end. And the only thing he knows how to do with a problem is work. Tomorrow, he will start digging a channel from the river to the eastern slope of the hill. Primitive, but functional. He will find a shovel or make one. He doesn't know yet that he will dig alone from dawn until dark for 3 months, that he will be beaten twice more, that they will laugh at him every single morning. He doesn't know that the first person to help him will do it not out of faith, but out of pity. But all of that will come later. Right now, he sits under the awning in a strange village on the edge of a strange world, listening to the red sun hum low on the horizon. He counts the days until the water. He wakes from cold, The red sun hasn't risen. The white one barely clears the horizon. His back is concrete from a night on the ground.
He sits up and breathes. The map hangs before his eyes. Blue marker. 7 months and 20 days now. The timer does not care that he's exhausted. He goes looking for a shovel. In 40 houses, there must be at least one.
At the first yard, a dog the size of a calf greets him with yellow eyes and raised hackles. He backs away. At the second, a woman hurls a bucket of slops at him and slams the gate. At the third, an old man sits on the doorstep peeling a root vegetable with a knife and looks at him the way you look at a fly that has landed on your table.
No one offers a civil.
He stands in the middle of the road for a moment, then walks west toward the grove. He finds a branch, thick as his wrist, and tries to break it with his hands. The body is too weak. He braces his foot against the trunk and throws his weight into the branch. It cracks and comes free. He spends an hour shaping the end with a stone, scraping and striking until the tip is flat and blunt, an insult to real shovels, but a tool.
He carries it to the eastern slope and drives it into the ground for the first time.
The impact echoes through his palms. The second blow peels skin. The third leaves a bloody smear on the shaft. The ground is compacted clay mixed with stones, and every stroke yields a fistful of dirt.
After an hour, he has a groove 3 steps long in the depth of a palm.
He calculates. The channel needs to run 800 meters from the eastern slope to the natural depression in the southeast, at least 1.5 meters wide, 1 meter deep. That is 4,500 cubic meters of soil moved by hand with a stick in 7.5 months.
Even at 12 hours a day, a cubic meter per hour, 4,500 hours, over a year, he has 225 days.
The math does not add up. He needs help or real tools or both. He has neither, so he digs. By noon, the white sun sits at its zenith, and the heat presses down like a wet blanket. He hasn't eaten since the day before.
His head spins, his hands shake. A half-day's work has moved the furrow 12 steps.
He sits on the edge of his pathetic groove and looks east toward the horizon, where a wide, calm river waits for rain that will make it something else entirely. Children arrive, 5 of them, the oldest 12, the youngest 6. They line up at the edge of the trench and stare down at him like an exhibit.
One points and says something. The others laugh.
He doesn't stop. He doesn't look up. He keeps driving the stick into the clay. After half an hour, the oldest picks up a stone and throws it. It hits him in the back. Not hard, but deliberate. The rest follow. The stones are small, more humiliating than painful. He does not stop. He turns the soil. The children throw rocks for 10 minutes, grow bored, and leave. By evening, the furrow runs 30 steps, about 20 meters. The depth is still laughable, but the line is visible. The direction is set. He walks to the village well to wash his hands. His palms are worn to the bone. 4 blisters burst open, fingers that refuse to bend. The woman with the slop bucket is standing at the well. She sees him and takes a step back. He holds out his hands, blood and dirt. She looks at them. Her expression shifts, not into warmth, but out of hostility. She steps aside. He lowers the bucket, pulls it up, plunges his hands into the water. The cold hits so hard he clenches his teeth and stops breathing for a few seconds. Then it eases. He drinks from the same bucket, the cleanest, coldest thing he has touched since arriving in this world.
On the walk back to the barn, the cart owner stands at his fence and watches.
Not hostile, not friendly, just watching. The way you watch a strange animal that has wandered into your yard and won't leave. Under the canopy that night, he studies the map for hours, tracing disaster after disaster. Flood in the east, earthquake in the south, drought in the center. 3 blows in 2 years, then 4 more in 5, each stronger,
each closer to the heart of the continent, as if something is tightening a ring.
He looks at the village. 40 houses on a hill. 200 people who do not know what is coming. But the hill will not flood. The hill will not shake. Its foundation is solid rock. He felt it through the density when he dug. Everything around this place will fall, and everyone who survives will be pushed toward the one place that still stands. He has to prepare it, not for the flood alone, for everything that follows the flood. The second day begins in the dark. Dawn, cold, raw pain in his hands. He tears strips from the hem of his shirt and wraps his palms. He returns to the slope and digs. The stick begins to split. Third day, fourth, fifth. Every morning before sunrise, every evening until dark, every night collapsed under the canopy, and then again. The furrow grows by 15 steps a day, sometimes 20 when the ground softens, and the depth increases even more slowly. By the end of the first week, the channel stretches 100 steps and reaches knee-deep at the starting point. Nothing measured against what he needs, but the line on the ground is visible from the top of the hill now. The villagers see it. Every day, one of them stands at the edge and watches the stranger poking at the ground with a stick. No one approaches, no one asks. They watch and walk away. On the 6th day, the man with the hoe comes, the very one who struck him in the face on the first day.
He stands at the edge of the trench for a long time and says something, voice different than before. Not angry, more puzzled.
He looks up, points at the channel, points east toward the river, cups his hands and spreads them wide. Big water. Coming. The man shakes his head and walks away, but he does not laugh. That is more than could have been expected. On the 8th day, the stick breaks. Not at the tip, in the middle, splitting along the grain like a bone. He stands in the trench, holding 2 useless fragments. He sits down on the dirt for 10 minutes. Not from exhaustion, from the quiet, mechanical anger of a man whose tool has broken mid-job. 11 years of service calls taught him this feeling. The compressor that dies on a rooftop in 40-degree heat, the drill bit that seizes halfway through an installation. Same thing every time. You stand there, you think, and then you make do with what you have. He goes to the grove, finds a new branch, and this time he goes to the cart owner's house. The man is on the porch, eating from a bowl. He points at the shed and mimes chopping. Axe. The man chews slowly, looks at him for a long time, then stands up, goes inside, and comes back with an old axe, rusty, blade chipped, and holds out the handle. He takes it and gestures that he'll return it. The man waves his hand. Do what you want. The first tool. Not a gift, not help, more like a gesture of weary indifference. But that is enough. He shapes a new branch in an hour instead of 4. The end comes out smoother, sharper. And then he begins using the axe for something else, chopping thin trunks from the grove, shaping them into stakes and driving them into the edges of the furrow. Every rain had been washing away a day's worth of digging. The clay walls crumbled without support. With stakes along the edges, they hold. Not engineering, desperation. But desperation that works is worth as much as brilliance. By the end of the 2nd week, individual words begin to reach him, not from conversations, but from context. The woman at the well says the same word every time she draws water. He decides it means well or water or both. The children shout one word as they run home at dusk. He decides it means eat or dinner or come quickly. The old man at the 3rd house says the same phrase every morning on his doorstep, probably a curse about the weather. The language seeps in, drop by drop, slow and painful, but it seeps. On the 15th day, something happens that he has not expected. He is digging at the far end of the furrow, 150 meters from the village, locked into the rhythm of strike and lever and toss.
He hears footsteps. He turns. A woman stands at the edge of the trench, not the one with the slop bucket, another one, young and thin, with tired hands and a bowl.
She sets the bowl on the ground. Gray porridge, thick, no spoon. She points at the bowl, then at him. Eat. Then she walks away without looking back. He sits beside the bowl and scoops the porridge with his hands. Warm, tasteless. He finishes it in under a minute. It is his first real meal in 2 days. Before this, he had been surviving on roots and berries and chewy stems found near the stream, enough to keep from dying, not enough to dig 12-hour shifts. The next morning, the bowl is in the same spot, still warm. He does not see her arrive.
She brings it every morning, 15 days in a row. Not a single word. No explanation. Just a bowl at the edge of the ditch.
He does not know her name, does not know why she does it. Maybe pity, maybe curiosity, maybe something else. He does not ask. He eats and he digs. By the end of the 3rd week, the trench stretches 400 paces and reaches waist-deep at the starting point. The walls are reinforced with stakes along their length. The bottom has been packed down. This is no longer a scratch on the surface. It is the beginning of a canal. Ugly, crooked, far too shallow, but real. The village has begun to notice it. Not to approve, to notice.
The man with the hoe walks by every evening, stops, looks, says nothing, walks away.
The old man with the root vegetable makes it to the far end of the trench one afternoon. He touches the wall with his foot. He walks back without a word. The children have stopped throwing stones. Now they sit on the edge and watch for hours.
He pays them no attention. He counts the days, 7 months and 8 days until the flood. The furrow is 400 paces long. He needs 3,000.
On the 24th day, he tries to speak, not to the men, to the woman who brings the porridge. She sets down the bowl. He says the word he overheard at the well. Water. She stops. She turns. He points east, repeats the word, spreads his arms wide. Big water. She looks at him for a moment, then says 2 words slowly, the way you speak to a child or someone very far away. He catches the first word, something the old man says every morning. He decides it means doesn't know or nonsense. She leaves, but the bowl is in its place the next morning. Not a conversation, an attempt, the first of many. He begins collecting words like stones for a wall, 1 per day. Water, earth, yes, no, house, hill, morning. He listens to the villagers as they pass. He ties sounds to actions. A woman calling her child, a man shouting at a dog, a merchant arriving and talking fast, too fast. He catches only 1 word, road or city or something between them. On the 27th day, he builds his first phrase, 3 words, water will come, big. He says it to the man with a hoe who is standing at the edge of the canal looking down. The man stares at him, not because he understood, but because the stranger has opened his mouth and produced something resembling human speech. He repeats it. The man responds with a long sentence, of which he catches almost nothing, but enough to know the man is asking when, or why, or how do you know. He points east, then at the sky, then at the channel. The man shakes his head and walks away, but more slowly than usual, and at the fence he turns around. On the 30th day, a real rain comes, not a drizzle. A dark wall of clouds swallows the sky in half an hour. The wind hammers the hill, and then the sky opens. He is standing in the canal when the downpour hits. Water rushes down the slope and flows into his furrow. He watches it fill, first the bottom, then ankle deep, then to his knees. The stream picks up speed. The walls reinforced with stakes hold. Where there are no stakes, chunks of clay collapse into the water and dissolve into sludge.
He climbs out and runs along the bank. The water is flowing down the channel, moving toward the southeast, toward the depression, exactly where he aimed it.
The canal is working. Not fully, not at full depth, not without leaks, but the main flow is moving along the riverbed. He stands in the downpour and watches. Rain pours on his face. His clothes are soaked through in seconds. He cannot move.
It works.
The rain falls for 4 hours. When it stops, 60 meters of unfortified wall have collapsed. The bottom has silted up in sections. But the fortified 300 meters stand. The stakes held. The compacted bottom held.
And the entire village had been indoors, watching through their windows as a stranger stood knee-deep in a stream, watching his ditch swallow the rain.
On the 31st day, the cart owner comes to the canal.
He sets down a shovel at the edge. Wooden blade, iron edge, rough and heavy, but real. He says one word and walks away. He does not understand the word, but he understands the gesture. Take it.
He takes it. He drives it into the ground.
The first dig goes 3 times deeper than anything the stick ever managed. He stares at the blade, then at the direction the man walked, then back at the blade. A real shovel does not just double the speed, it changes everything about the quality. Smooth walls, clean corners, a flat bottom.
Every meter dug with the shovel is worth 5 meters dug with the stick. He restores the rain-damaged section in 3 days. It would have taken 10 before. The furrow ceases to be a scratch. It becomes a channel.
On the 35th day, a second worker arrives, not with a shovel, with his bare hands, a young guy, about 17, thin as a rake.
He jumps into the channel without a word and begins scooping dirt with his hands, throwing it onto the bank, scooping again. He doesn't look at him. He doesn't explain himself. He just starts working. 2 people in the canal means twice the dirt cleared per day, even if the second works at half the pace.
On the 37th day, the guy comes back and brings another one, a boy of about 14. No tools, no words.
3 in the ditch.
On the 39th day, there are 4. The 4th is a stooped old man who comes with something resembling a hoe and begins chipping at the clay at the far end, slowly, methodically, with pauses.
None of them speak to him. None of them ask why. They simply come and start working. That evening, he thinks about why.
The answer is in the rain. They saw how the water flowed through the ditch, not across the field, not down the road, through the ditch, exactly where he directed it.
That was not proof of a coming flood. It was proof that the ditch works.
A ditch that diverts rainwater from vegetable gardens is a practical thing, a useful thing. They didn't come because they believed in the flood.
They came because they saw results. Belief can crumble at a single doubt. Practical results are built on what people have seen with their own eyes.
That is better than faith. That is something he can work with.
On the 42nd day, there are 7 of them. 2 new men arrive with a shovel and something halfway between a pickaxe and a hoe. The channel grows 40 meters a day. The main section reaches chest height in depth. The walls are reinforced along their entire length. He divides the work without giving orders. He positions himself in a section and works, then moves to the next one. People watch what he does and mirror it. 2 dig at the front edge. 2 deepen the trench behind them. 2 reinforce the walls. 1 hauls dirt to the bank. Rotation every 2 hours. It is how his crews worked on building facades, one securing the bracket, the second handing the unit, the third pulling the line. Everyone sees their neighbor. Everyone knows their place.
By the end of the 6th week, the trench stretches 900 meters, more than halfway to the depression.
Depth in the main section, 1.5 meters. Width, 2.
He had widened it because 7 people in a narrow channel get in each other's way, and because the calculations show 1.5 meters won't be enough for the volume of water that is coming.
The woman with the porridge now brings a large pot for everyone. Someone from the village tosses in vegetables.
Not much, but enough to keep the crew from collapsing. He sits on the edge of the canal in the evening and looks at his work. 900 meters of a muddy furrow slicing the plain from the hill to the southeast. 7 people who will jump back in tomorrow morning. A woman who sets a pot on the edge without being asked. A man who gave a shovel without explanation. The village does not believe in the flood. The village believes in the canal. For now, that is enough. On the 45th day, he wakes up and cannot straighten his back. 6 weeks of 12-hour days have wrung everything out of his body. He lies for an hour, rolls to his side, gets to all fours, pushes himself up the wall. His spine cracks in 3 places. The pain does not vanish, but it retreats enough to move. He walks to the canal and stops at the edge. 6 people are already down there, working without him.
The young guy stands at the front edge and digs. The boy shovels beside him. 2 men deepen the middle section. The old man chips at the far wall. The 6th carries dirt up in a basket.
No one waiting for instructions. No one checking for approval. 6 people who 6 weeks ago didn't know what a channel was, now digging it on their own. He climbs in, takes his place, and works until noon in silence. Then he climbs out and walks toward the north slope. He has been putting this off for weeks. It is time. The map had shown him something else beyond the flood. The earthquake in the south, 14 months away, will trigger a landslide that blocks a western river, which feeds the stream on the north slope. 2 months after the quake, that stream will dry up. The village's only water supply beyond a single well will be gone. And the well is barely enough for 200 people. After the flood, there will be far more than 200. He needs a second well. He stands on the north slope and thinks, not about whether to dig, but about where. The hilltop is solid rock, barely 1.5 meters below the clay. Breaking it with a wooden shovel is impossible. He tries the floodplain to the north, digs with the shovel. 1 bayonet, 2, 3, 4, and muddy brown water seeps up from below. Groundwater close to the surface. But the floodplain is lowland. The first flood will contaminate anything dug there and poison it for months. He needs a well on the hill itself. He goes back to examine the existing village well. Stone walls, 10 meters deep. Someone had once chiseled down through solid rock to reach the aquifer. The chisel marks are still there on the blocks, a wedge and a heavy iron. Block by block, someone made this hole in the earth by hand. So it is possible. He goes to the blacksmith.
The blacksmith lives at the western edge of the village, the only stone house with a canopy sheltering an anvil and a clay furnace.
He sits on the doorstep sharpening a sickle. He looks up when he approaches. He mimes it, fist on palm, stone. Point down, dig. Point at the village well, water. Chisel through stone to reach water. The blacksmith watches the gestures and says one word. He has heard it many times. Why? He answers with 3 words he knows. Water, big, people. The blacksmith squints, then asks something long. He catches only 2 words. Where from and how do you know? He freezes. No one has asked him this directly before. He could not answer even if he had the words. He cannot tell the truth. Not here. He points at the sky, then at the ground, then at his own head. I just know. The blacksmith looks at him for 30 seconds, then stands up and walks into the workshop. He comes back with 2 iron wedges, each a palm's width, thick and heavy, with sharp tapered tips. He sets them on the anvil. 1 word. Take. The first real steel he has held in this world. He feels the weight of them in his scraped hands. The blacksmith has already returned to the sickle. The conversation is over. He leaves with 2 wedges and a question he cannot answer. Why did the blacksmith help him? Not out of faith, not for obvious practical use. Perhaps out of curiosity.
perhaps just to see what a stranger will do with iron and rock. He chooses a spot on the southeast slope, below the houses, above the floodline, far enough from the old well not to cross the aquifer, close enough to be useful.
On the 47th day, he begins digging. The first 1.5 meters takes 2 days. Clay. The shovel manages.
On the 3rd day, the blade hits stone. The sound is dry and short, like a knock on a door that will not open.
He takes out a wedge, finds a crack, inserts the tip, strikes it from above with a fist-sized stone. The wedge goes in a finger's width.
Another blow, another finger's width. A chip, a fist-sized chunk of rock flies off the mass. He picks it up, throws it out of the pit. The first piece. He needs several thousand of them.
He gives the well 3 hours per evening, chiseling in the dark after a full day on the canal. The sound carries through the village. Tap, 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 steady and endless, like a second heartbeat under the hill.
After a week, he has gone 30 centimeters below the rock line. In 2 weeks, 70. The rock is uneven. In some places, it cracks and gives way in large chunks. In others, it stands as a monolith that slides the wedge off without yielding. He changes his striking points. He hunts for weak spots. He strikes at angles.
Then he discovers something. He drives a wooden peg into a crack and pours water over it. He goes to sleep. In the morning, the crack has widened by 2 fingers. The wood swelled and pried the stone apart from the inside.
He did not know this technique. He arrived at it from desperation. He begins using it every evening. Pegs in, water on, leave overnight, knock out the split pieces in the morning. His pace doubles.
Meanwhile, what he had been hoping for begins to happen. On the 52nd day, 12 workers, then 15. By the 60th day, 23 people are digging. Almost 1 in 10 villagers. They do not all come at once. 2 or 3 at a time, some for a full day, others for a couple of hours between their own work. But the canal grows 60 meters a day. The walls are reinforced, the bottom is compacted. And something else happens. Among the new workers are farmers who have been digging the earth their whole lives. Their furrows are smoother than his. Their walls do not crumble. He learns from them, just as they learn from him. He sets the direction and the depth. The quality of the work is theirs. One of the farmers suggests weaving willow rods into flexible shields and pressing them into the walls. He accepts the idea immediately. On a construction site, there is no copyright. There is only what works and what doesn't. By the 70th day, the canal has reached 1,400 meters. The depth in the main section is 2 meters. The width is 3. The canal has become a communal effort, not his, everyone's, and that is right. On the 73rd day, the second well yields water.
He is standing at the bottom of a 4-meter pit, 2 meters of clay, 2 of rock, when the wedge finds another crack, and water rushes out. Not a jet, a slow, cold, steady stream.
He cups his hands and drinks. Clean, no murkiness, no aftertaste. Groundwater from beneath the rock.
He stands ankle deep in the water he has chiseled out of solid stone over 26 days and looks up at a square of sky above his head. 2 suns, white and red. In 5 months, people will come here, hungry, wet, having lost everything, and he will give them water from this hole. He climbs out. His hands are scraped raw. His back won't straighten. His knees shake. He sits on the edge of the pit for 10 minutes. Then he walks to the blacksmith. He says 3 words. Water is down there. The blacksmith looks at him, at the bruises on his hands, at the clay in his hair. Then he nods, once, brief and certain. He turns and walks to the well to see for himself. The map that evening shows 5 months and 2 days until the flood. The canal is 1,400 meters long. The second well is finished. 23 people work every day. The woman cooks for all of them. The blacksmith knows his face now.
The village still does not believe in the flood.
But the village is already working to save itself from it, not because they believe, but because the canal drains the fields, and the new well will matter when the old one runs low.
Practical benefit, the only language people without a map can understand.
On the 78th day, the canal reaches the hollow.
800 meters. The last drive of the shovel breaks through into soft black soil, and dark, swampy water seeps up from below.
The level of the depression matches the level of the channel. The water will flow on its own. No pumps, no pressure needed.
He stands at the edge of the hollow and looks back along the length of the canal.
A brown scar cutting across the green plain for nearly 2 kilometers, and 26 people stretched along it, some sitting at the edge drinking water, some deepening and reinforcing the final sections.
He does not celebrate.
The canal has reached its target length, but not its required depth. The first 400 meters from the hill are dug to 2.5 meters and widened to 3. The middle section is shallower. The last 800 meters are barely trench deep.
If the water comes as the map predicts, the canal will handle perhaps a quarter of the flow. The rest will overtop the walls.
He needs to deepen the entire middle section by another meter.
4 months and 20 days remain.
He gathers his 26 workers at the edge of the canal for the first time, standing before them rather than working beside them.
He has 40 words in their language. He speaks slowly, each word accompanied by a gesture drawn from 4 months of frustrated mime.
Channel long ready, but shallow. Water will come. He holds his hand above his head. Higher than the channel. Need to go deeper. All of it.
He looks at 26 faces, tanned, dirty, tired. They came to dig a canal because it was useful. Now he is asking them to deepen 1.5 kilometers of it because of a catastrophe no one but him can see.
The young guy speaks up first. He catches the gist. How much time? He holds up 4 fingers, then 2. 4 months, 22 days.
The guy exchanges a glance with the man beside him. The man shakes his head. Not enough.
He nods. Yes, not enough. That is why he needs more people.
The man with the hoe, the very first man who struck him in the face, speaks for a long time.
He catches a third of it. The village does not believe in the flood. The stranger is harmless, possibly foolish. The canal is useful for rain. Everyone acknowledges that. But a great flood? That is a fairy tale. No one will abandon their gardens for a fairy tale.
He waits until the man finishes, then says 4 words. Rain, the canal, worked, we saw.
The man goes silent. He continues slowly, 1 word at a time. The channel held the rain. High water will be higher. We need it deeper. The man looks at him, then at the channel, then at him again, then turns and walks away.
Half the people leave with him. 13 remain.
He looks at the 13, the young guy, the boy, the old man with the hoe, 2 farmers, 8 others who have not left, not because they believe, but because the work is not finished.
He nods at them. Tomorrow morning.
Dig.
They go their separate ways, and he stands alone on the edge of the canal until dark.
The math is merciless. 13 people, 1 cubic meter per person per day, 1 meter of depth across 1,400 meters of canal, over 400 cubic meters needed, 42 days at minimum. He has 142.
He does not need 42 days of digging. He needs 30 people. He has 13.
He lies under the canopy and stares at a sky full of stars he does not recognize.
He stopped looking for familiar constellations weeks ago. He thinks instead about how to get 17 more hands.
Persuasion is useless. He has no authority, no fluency, no reputation here beyond useful oddity. Half the village considers him a harmless fool who digs drainage. The other half considers him an arrogant fool who demands rescue from a flood that doesn't exist.
Neither half will follow him into the ditch over an argument.
In the morning, he does not go to the canal. He goes to the cart owner.
The man is fixing a section of fence. He watches the problem, a pole cracked at the attachment point, tied with rope that won't hold.
He picks up the axe, still leaning by the barn, chops a branch, splits it lengthwise, presses it to both sides of the crack, ties it down. The pole stands straight, stronger than before.
The man watches, says one word. Good. He already knows that word.
Then he speaks slowly, choosing each word with care.
I need people. The canal is shallow. Water will be high. 13 is not enough. We need more. You know people.
The man listens. His face does not change. Then he replies, long and steady.
He catches the shape of it. No people. Everyone is in the fields. Harvest in 2 months. No one will leave the fields. Without harvest, winter will kill more than any flood.
He understands. It is not an excuse. It is the truth. A village of 200 lives off the land. Every pair of hands in the fields is food in winter. Taking them away is a sentence. He faces the equation plainly. The canal needs more workers. The workers are busy keeping the village alive. If he takes them, the village starves. If he leaves them, the canal won't be ready.
He works in the canal all day in silence, and by evening he has a decision. Not a good one, the only one.
He will not deepen the entire canal. He will build a dam. An earthen embankment on the eastern slope of the hill, between the village and the river, higher than the canal, running parallel to the middle section.
If the water overflows the shallower section of the canal, it hits the dam. The dam slows it, buys time for the flow to find its way back into the deeper channels.
It will not stop the water. It will redirect it. Slow it enough.
And here is the elegant part. The earth for the dam comes from the canal itself. He deepens the canal and piles the excavated soil into a mound 30 meters upslope. One action, 2 results. Every cubic meter from the trench is a cubic meter for the embankment.
He calculates 13 men. Half the daily output goes to deepening the canal. Half goes to the embankment. Over 142 days, roughly 900 cubic meters into each.
The canal deepens by 1 meter across 600 critical meters of the middle section. The dam rises 600 meters long, 1 meter high, half a meter thick.
It is not a fortress. It is a sandcastle. But a sandcastle slows the wave, and those seconds allow more water to flow into the channel.
He draws the plan in the dirt with a stick. Channel, dam, water. Arrows showing direction. The 13 watch. The young guy nods first. The others follow.
Not because they understand the hydrology, because the plan means the same work as before. Dig. But now instead of throwing the dirt aside, they pile it into a wall. The next morning, they begin. He marks the embankment line with stakes and rope, parallel to the canal, 30 meters upslope. The first day yields 12 meters of a knee-high mound. By the end of the first week, 70 meters of waist-high embankment.
Soil hauled up from the canal in baskets and buckets, dumped along the line, tamped down with feet, layer by layer. Clay, stones, clay, stones.
He remembers how a screed is laid, layers, tamping, reinforcement. He has no rebar, but he has the willow shields, the same woven rod panels used in the canal walls. He starts inserting them horizontally into the dam every 30 centimeters. The rods bind the clay together, keep it from spreading under pressure.
He does not know if it will hold during a real flood. There is no way to test it in advance. All he can do is build it and keep going.
On the 91st day, a merchant arrives, the same one who comes monthly with salt and cloth. He stops on the road and stares at the canal, then at the dam, then at the line of people hauling earth.
He asks the man with the hoe what is happening. The man answers. The merchant laughs. Then he looks at the canal again. He stops laughing. He leaves that evening and takes the story with him. A village where a stranger has dug a 2-kilometer canal and is building a mud wall because he believes a great flood is coming.
In a world without the internet,
A good story travels at the speed of a cart. Slow, but unstoppable.
Within a week, 3 neighboring villages have heard it. Within 2, 6. He is not thinking about the merchant. He is thinking about the dam and the 120 days he has left. The canal is 1,800 meters. The dam is 70. He needs 600. 13 hands. He does the math every night. Every night it comes out wrong. He falls asleep with the map before his eyes, the blue marker pulsing steadily and without mercy.
On the 98th day, 3 strangers appear on the road from the south.
He spots them from the hill. 3 men, on foot, backpacks, walking sticks, tanned hands of people who labor outdoors. They stop at the edge of the canal and look down into it. Then they walk toward the village.
He meets them at the well. One speaks quickly. He catches a word he has heard before, the word for flood or water or both. They have come from a village 2 days south. They heard about the canal. They heard about the man who says the water is coming. Their village sits in the river valley. If the flood is real, their homes will be the first to go. They came to look. He takes them along the canal, 800 meters. The first section dug to 2.5 meters. Walls reinforced. The dam visible along the middle section, 120 meters. Chest height. They walk in silence. One touches the wall. One goes down into the channel and walks the bottom. The third stands above and looks at the line of the embankment, stretching south. Then they ask the question he has heard before. Where do you know this from? He answers as he answered the blacksmith. He points at the sky, at his head. I know. I just know. They exchange a glance. One shakes his head. Another says something to the third. The third speaks quietly. He does not understand all of it, but he understands the shape of it. If it is true, what do we do? He points at the canal, at the shovel, at them. Dig. They stay. 3 new workers. 16 in the canal. 3 days later, 2 more arrive from another village, then 4 more. The merchant has done his work better than any prophet could. By the 100th day, there are 28 people on the canal and the dam, 12 of them from 4 different villages outside the hill.
He had been bracing himself to work with 13.
28 changes everything. The dam grows 200 meters longer. Height reaches 1.5 meters. Thickness 2. Willow shields inside every 30 centimeters. Clay tamped on the outside to near stone density. The canal deepens at the same time, the middle section now reaching 2 meters over a growing stretch. He redistributes the crew. 12 to the dam, 10 to the canal, 6 to fortification work preparing willow shields. Rotation every 3 hours. He had learned this on rooftops. 4 hours without a break in heat and the hands stop obeying. 3 hours on, 3 hours off, and you sustain it all day. The newcomers brought something beyond their hands. Information. A man from the southern village says the river is running higher than usual for this season. The elders say something like this happened 30 years ago. It flooded 3 villages. A woman from the east says the mountains to the west had more snow than normal all winter. In spring, it melts and flows into the rivers. Every piece of information matches the map. He says nothing about the map. He tells them he feels it, reads signs, knows the way you know rain through aching knees. They accept this. In a world with 2 suns and no meteorology, a man who can sense water is no stranger than a man who can sense weather through his joints.
On the 115th day, food becomes the problem.
28 people doing 9 hours of physical labor need calories. The woman with the porridge cannot manage alone. 2 others join her. But the food comes from the village's supplies, and the village has begun to count its stores. The man with the hoe comes to the dam one evening. His face is tight. He speaks slowly for the stranger's benefit. Strangers eating our food. 12 new mouths. The harvest isn't gathered yet. The stores are shrinking. By winter, there will be nothing. He listens. The man is right. 2 days of thought.
Then a solution. He gathers the 12 newcomers.
Tomorrow, half of you do not dig. Half of you go to the fields and work for the villagers. 3 days on the canal, 3 days in the fields, alternating. Whoever eats village food works in village fields.
One man objects. He came to dig, not plow. He looks at him and says briefly, "Whoever eats, works, wherever they are needed."
The man goes quiet. The next day, 6 newcomers appear in the fields. The villagers watch with suspicion, then surprise, then cautious approval. 6 pairs of hands are 6 pairs of hands. It does not matter whose they are.
A week later, the man with the hoe stops coming to complain.
The first lesson in governance he learns in this world. People tolerate a stranger as long as he does not touch their food. Touch the food, and you are the enemy. Restore the balance, and you are a useful fool again. On the 120th day, he does what he has been putting off since the first week. He goes to see the village elder.
The elder lives in the biggest house at the top of the hill. 2 stories, stone first floor, wooden second, the only tiled roof in the village.
In all his weeks here, he has never once seen the man. He is an axis that the village revolves around without being seen.
He knocks on the gate. A woman opens it. He says he wants to speak with the elder. She closes the gate. 10 minutes later, she opens it again. Come in.
The village elder sits at a table in a ground floor room with a clay mug and a piece of bread. Very old, face like cracked earth, eyes small and sharp. He does not stand. He does not greet. He simply stares.
He stands before the old man and understands for the first time in 3.5 months that everything depends on this conversation. He has 200 words now. Not fluency, but enough to explain simple things if he speaks slowly.
The water is coming in 4 moons. The river will burst its banks. The valley will flood. People will flee. They will come here, to the hill, the only high ground for miles. Many people. 200, 300, maybe more. The village is not ready.
The village elder chews his bread. Methodical, patient. A man who is not in the habit of being hurried. Then he speaks. Quiet voice, dry as sand on stone. He talks for 5 minutes. He catches perhaps half.
The elder knows about the canal, knows about the dam, knows about the newcomers, knows about the food. He knows everything that happens in his village, because it is his village.
He allowed the stranger to dig because the canal is useful. He allowed the newcomers to stay because they work in the fields. But he does not believe in the great flood. No one does.
And if a stranger came asking for people or food or land for construction, he would get nothing.
He waits until the elder finishes. Then he says one sentence. When the water comes and the people flee, they will come here. Are you ready for that?
The elder looks at him for a long time. Then he says one word, if. If the water comes.
He nods and he leaves. The conversation yields nothing visible. No people, no resources, no permission. But it yields something invisible.
The village elder is not an enemy. He is an observer. He allows. He does not help, but he does not stop. And for now, that is enough space to work in. On the 130th day, the dam reaches 400 meters, 2 meters high in the main section, 2.5 meters thick. Willow shields inside, tamped clay outside, the surface packed to a density approaching stone.
The canal has been deepened to 2 meters over 1,200 of its 1,800 meters. The remaining 600 are still at 1.5.
31 workers now. 3 newcomers arrived from the west, from across the river, carrying a rumor with him that the man on the hill came from the sky, speaks with earth spirits, that his canal glows at night.
None of it is true, but rumors bring people better than the truth.
On the 135th day, he begins building warehouses, not for grain, for people.
The flood will bring refugees, wet, hungry, homeless. They will need somewhere to sleep that is not the open sky.
He cannot build houses. Not enough time, not enough material, not enough hands.
But he can build long, open shelters on posts with roofs of straw and reeds. Shelter from rain, not walls, but a roof. He puts 4 men to work. 1 shelter per day. Each holds 20 people. 10 shelters in 10 days means 200 places. The villagers look at the empty roofed frames and cannot understand the purpose. Why build for people who aren't here?
In 3 months, they will understand. On the 142nd day, the blacksmith comes to find him on the embankment. He stands at the top of the dam and looks at the canal, then at the shelters at the foot of the hill, then at the people below.
Then he turns to him and says one sentence. I will make you 10 shovels. He goes still. The blacksmith's expression is level. No drama. A business proposal. You are building something large. You need tools. I make tools. He asks what the blacksmith wants in return.
The blacksmith thinks for a moment. Then, when the water comes and people arrive, I will need coal, much coal. Without coal, I am nothing. Among the refugees, find those who know where to get it. He holds out his hand. The blacksmith looks at it, then takes it, one brief, firm grip. The first agreement, not based on trust, not on fear, on mutual benefit. A catastrophe as a business opportunity. He thinks about this that evening. The blacksmith was the first to treat the flood not as prophecy and not as madness, but as a plan. If the water comes, the blacksmith gains customers and coal. If it doesn't, he loses 10 shovels. An acceptable risk. 5 days later, the first 3 shovels arrive. Iron blades on oak handles. Real tools. He hands them to the 3 best diggers. The pace on the canal increases immediately. On the 150th day, something he has not planned for arrives. He is standing on the dam at dawn when he sees them. A group on the road from the east. More than 20 people. Men, women, children, livestock, carts, moving in a slow column. He climbs down and walks toward them. 3 families, 26 people from the east bank of the river. They packed everything they could carry and left. The oldest man speaks. His voice is exhausted. The river has risen by 2 fists above what is normal for this season. The elders say nothing like this has happened in 40 years. They heard about the man on the hill. They came. He feels something tighten in his chest. They came not because he called them, not because he convinced them. They came because the river rose and they were afraid. Fear brought them, not him. He leads them to the shelters, the empty frames that the villagers considered a whim. 26 people spread out under the roofs, lay out their belongings, tie up their livestock. Children sit on the ground and look around with wide eyes. The shelters were ready in time. The village elder arrives an hour later. He stands at the edge and studies the newcomers with a face like stone. He approaches and speaks quietly. They brought grain and livestock. They will work in the fields and on the canal. They are not a burden. They are a resource. The elder looks at him for a long time. Then he says one word. More will come. He nods. Yes, many more. The elder turns and walks away without a yes or a no, but he said the word more. That means he is thinking about what comes next. Somewhere in that dry old skull, a thought has stirred. Maybe the stranger isn't crazy. On the 156th day, there are 300 on the hill, 200 from the village and surroundings, and 100 newcomers. The shelters are full. He builds more, 3 per day now that he has the hands. The food problem returns, sharper. He cannot feed 100 new people by rotating them through the fields. He goes to the eastern refugees and counts their supplies. 3 carts of wheat and millet, enough for 2 months if carefully rationed.
He moves from group to group, family to family, counting. Grain, dried meat, root vegetables, beans.
If he combines all of it with what the village has stored, 3 months of food for the current population.
3 months takes him just past the flood. But after the flood, more will come, hundreds with nothing. 3 months becomes 3 weeks overnight.
He opens the map and looks 40 kilometers south. A lake, large, marked in green with a blue center. Fish. He sends 4 men south to scout. 2 locals who know the terrain, 2 newcomers.
4 days later they return. There is a lake. There are fish. The shores are gentle. Forest all around. Game and mushrooms and berries. He sends 10 men there with nets woven from rope and willow twigs in 2 days. Crude, clumsy, but effective on fish that have never seen a net. A week later, the first batch arrives on the hill, dried and salted, paid for with labor. 5 newcomers spent 3 days repairing the merchant's cart and loading his goods. He left a sack of salt. The supply chain is born. 10 fishermen at the lake. Every 5 days, a wagon of fish to the hill. Drying, salting, storage in a converted shed. Fish means he can feed people without touching the grain. Grain for winter, fish for now. On the 165th day, he stops and looks at what he has built.
A canal 1,800 meters long, dug to 2 meters along its entire length. A dam 520 meters long and 2 meters high. 2 wells, 14 sheds. A fishing camp 40 kilometers south. A warehouse with supplies. 300 people. 100 of them are newcomers. 45 work on the canal and dam. 20 in the fields, 10 fishing. 15 building and gathering materials, 10 on maintenance. This is no longer a village with a foreign madman digging in the dirt. This is a camp. Small, ragged, held together with mud and rope, but organized. And he is at the center of it. Not because anyone chose him, not because he is stronger or smarter or more authoritative, but because he is the only one who knows what comes next. Every decision, where to dig, who to place where, how much food for how many people, passes through him. And that is the problem. If he gets sick, if he breaks a leg in the canal, everything stops. He needs people who can make decisions without him. He chooses 3. The young guy who arrived first, he knows every meter of the canal, every weak spot, every turn. He becomes foreman on the excavation. A man from the first wave of Eastern refugees, calm, level-headed, good at numbers, good at negotiating. He becomes the supply manager. The blacksmith, not a leader, an anchor. A man you bring a question to and get an answer, without fuss. He explains the full plan to them for the first time. Canal, dam, shelters, warehouses, fish, refugees, everything, except the map. The map he does not show. He cannot explain the map.
They listen, they ask questions, he answers. 2 hours. The longest conversation he has had since arriving in this world.
At the end, the young guy says, "You know what is going to happen." Not a question, a statement. He stays silent. The guy continues, "It doesn't matter how you know. What matters is that everything you said has come true. The river rose, people came, the canal works. That's enough."
The blacksmith nods once, brief and final. Enough.
On the 171st day, the rains begin. Not a downpour, a steady drizzle that falls without stopping for 3 days. Gray sky, both suns hidden, temperature dropping. The canal fills to 1/3 of its capacity and flows with a force that surprises him, water rushing 2 kilometers from the eastern slope into the valley below. The dam stands, wet and dark. Streams run down its face and into the side channels. The willow shields hold the clay from spreading. He stands on the dam in the rain and watches, and finds weak spots. The junction between the old and newly deepened sections of the canal creates a sudden drop in depth, and the water swirls there and eats at the wall.
In 2 days, that wall will fail. He sends 6 men in immediately, working waist deep in the current, reinforcing the junction with a double row of stakes and shields.
By evening of the second day, the wall holds.
And then something else happens. All the villagers, 200 of them, come out of their houses and stand at the edge of the hill.
They watch the water move through the canal, past their houses, past their fields, past their lives, into the valley below.
Not at them, past them.
The canal working before their eyes, 3 days running, and the man with the hoe who struck him in the face on the first day stands among them in silence. After the rain, 7 villagers approach him. Strong laborers, men. One word: dig.
He gives them shovels.
On the 175th day, there are 52 workers. The dam gains 20 meters per day. 4 side spillways branch from the main canal at angles, each 200 meters long, pressure valves for overflow. The young foreman thinks through the hydraulics without being taught them. Where will the water go if the side channel also overflows? How deep for the water to flow without pooling?
Practical experience. 4 months in the trench. The best teacher there is.
On the 180th day, the dam is finished. 600 meters long, 2 meters high, 2.5 meters thick, reinforced with willow shields, tamped to stone density. He stands at its crest and looks east. Somewhere beyond the horizon, the river is gathering what it has been given: snowmelt, rain, the accumulated weight of a mountain range's winter. The map shows 2 months and 10 days. The marker pulses faster than before, or perhaps that is only his imagination. He climbs down and checks the supplies. 4 months of grain, fish for 2, water from 2 wells, 18 shelters for 360 people, 120 currently occupied. He sits on the ground by the warehouse and closes his eyes. For the first time in 6 months, he feels something close to peace. Not confidence, peace. He has done everything he could. Not perfect, fragile, built from mud and sticks, by hands that 3 months ago were throwing stones at him.
But a system, one that works, ready to take the hit.
He opens his eyes. Blue marker. 2 months and 10 days. He has done what he can, and he does not know if it will be enough.
On the 192nd day, the river has risen 4 cubits above normal. He learns this from the merchant, who arrives pale and speaks only 3 sentences. The bridge on the eastern road is flooded. 2 lowland villages are being evacuated. The water is coming. The main surge is still a month and 20 days away, but the prelude has already started. The river swells like a boil, and when it bursts, there will be no time to flee. He gathers his 3, young foreman, supply officer, blacksmith. 1 sentence: a month and 20 days. We need to speed up.
The supply officer asks, how many will come?
He answers honestly. 200, 500, maybe more. Depends on how many survive and how many make it here.
The supply officer says what they all know. There won't be enough food.
He nods. We catch more fish. We gather everything we can from the plain. We ration hard. And we hope the refugees have something with them.
Hope. A bad plan. The only one available.
On the 195th day, the village elder comes to him. Alone. For the first time. The old man stands by the canal and looks at the water moving through it. Groundwater now, seeping through the walls, running along the bottom in a thin, steady stream. The canal is alive, even without rain. The elder turns and says 5 words. What do you want from me?
5 months of waiting for that question.
He answers plainly. People for the dam. Permission to extend the shelters north. And authority. When the refugees come, someone needs to tell them there is order here and rules. That someone is not me. I am a stranger. They will not listen to me, but they will listen to you. The elder asks, are you sure the water will come? He could lie. He tells the truth instead. The river is up 4 cubits. The snow is melting. Every sign points to yes. Am I sure for the rest of my life? No. But I have been digging for 6 months. That is a sufficient bet.
The elder looks at him for 10 seconds. Then he nods.
10 men at the dam tomorrow morning.
He turns and walks back toward the village. Slow, stooped, old. But when he speaks to the men at the well, they listen. The next morning, 10 village men stand by the dam with shovels. Not outsiders, natives, for the first time.
On the 200th day, he counts 62 workers. Canal fully reinforced. Dam 600 meters. 4 spillways. 2 wells. 22 shelters. 5 months of grain. 3 of fish. 380 people on the hill.
1 month until the flood.
He stands at the top and looks east. In a month, the plain before him will be underwater, brown and murky from horizon to horizon, and somewhere in that water there will be people clinging to whatever is still above the surface.
Some of them will see the hill. They will swim toward it.
He has to be ready to take them in.
He has to, because the map gave him knowledge, and knowledge is responsibility, not the kind you choose, the kind that falls on you like a frayed cable on the 12th floor, without warning, without choice, without the chance to say no.
He comes down from the hill and walks toward the canal to check it. For the 10th time that day. For the 100th time that month.
Because that is the only thing he knows how to do with a problem. Check, fix, prepare, wait.
The flood comes on the 210th day, and not the way he expected. Not a wall, not a roar. It comes at night, quietly, a low, continuous rustling, like 1,000 things moving through grass at once.
He crawls from the shed into darkness. The red sun has not yet risen. He climbs onto the dam and looks east.
The plain glistens, all of it, from the horizon to the foot of the hill, a thin sheet of water covering the ground like a film, grass tufts sticking up through it, the level rising millimeter by millimeter, without noise, without waves.
He runs back to the village and knocks on every door. Water! Water! Water!
People stumble out, sleepy and angry. Then they look east and wake instantly.
By dawn, 380 people stand on the hilltop and watch the plane disappear.
The road to the east is underwater. The lower fields are gone. The canal takes in what it can, perhaps a quarter of the total flow. The dam redirects the rest into the spillways.
The system is working. Not perfectly. The lowest shelters flood ankle deep. People scramble for higher ground. But the hill stands. The village stands. The water flows past. He walks the dam every hour, checking for leaks. He finds one at the western end, a thin trickle seeping through the embankment's body. A trickle means a channel inside. A channel inside means erosion. He stations 6 men with clay to pack it from outside.
2 hours of work. The trickle stops. By the 4th day, the water level freezes, 7 feet high, 20 centimeters from the top of the dam. 20 centimeters between order and everything falling apart.
He stands on the dam and looks at those 20 centimeters, built from 1,000 small decisions over 6 months.
If he had started 2 weeks later, if he hadn't deepened the middle section, if the blacksmith had said no, if the woman had never brought the first bowl of porridge.
20 centimeters.
On the 5th day, the water begins to recede, 1 centimeter per hour. The river is returning to its banks.
By the 7th day, the plain is exposed, covered in silt and debris, dead livestock, ruins, uprooted trees.
And throughout those 7 days, people come. On the first evening, dots appear on the horizon, figures standing waist-deep in brown water, moving toward the hill. Dozens, then hundreds. They arrive at sunset, wet, shivering, women carrying children above the waterline, men with bundles held high, old people guided by the arm.
170 arrived that first night,
300 by morning, 420 by the evening of the second day. The shelters overflow. People sit on open ground and huddle together. Children cry. Men stare at the water that has swallowed everything they owned.
He has not slept in 2 days. He moves from shelter to shelter, distributing food, directing the sick to the healer, sending the able-bodied to the dam.
When the water finally retreats, 812 people live on the hill. 812. There had been 200.
He has supplies for 380. He looks at the map. The blue marker has faded. The next one, brown, earthquake, south, pulses in its place. 6 months.
He stands on the dam he spent 6 months building, 800 people behind him, with nowhere else to go, and nothing left to go back to.
He unclenches his fists. He looks at his hands. Calluses, scars, cracked skin. The hands of an air conditioning technician who has been digging the earth for 6 months.
He turns and walks down toward the people.
He counts the supplies first. 12 bags of grain, 8 bags of fish, 4 baskets of root vegetables. 812 mouths. If they ration hard, morning porridge, evening fish, nothing extra. 16 days.
16 days, then nothing. And the harvest is 4 months away.
He walks every shed looking for people with skills rather than people with needs.
A farmer from one of the eastern villages, hands like shovels, wife and 2 children, has seeded wheat his whole life.
He asks about the silt-covered plain. The man laughs at first. You can't plant in mud. Then stops laughing and thinks. Rich silt. Fertile layer. After the flood, the land yields twice as much, if there's seed for it.
He has set aside 3 bags, not for eating, for planting. The farmer stares at him. You planned for this?
He does not answer. He asks, when can we sow?
A carpenter rescued his full set of chisels from the flood, held them to his chest while walking chest deep in water. A man who saves tools knows the value of work.
A potter, 60 years old, hands twisted from decades of clay, came with nothing but his hands. Clay is everywhere. The hill is surrounded by it. He can make pots, bowls, pipes, bricks.
A healer, 40 years old, thin and muscular, saved only her bag of dried herbs. 800 people with no doctor, and 1 woman with a bag full of knowledge. 2 bricklayers, brothers, broad-shouldered and silent. They work stone, foundations, walls, ovens.
A former soldier who does not know how to hunt, but knows how to kill. Close enough.
An accountant who carried an abacus and 3 scrolls of parchment out of the flood. A man who saves counting tools, saves the thing that makes everything else measurable. Every person is a skill. Every skill is a resource. The flood destroyed the village, but did not kill the professions. On the 9th day, he gathers all 812 on the hilltop. He stands on a rock by the well. The village elder stands beside him, silent but present. That is everything.
The stranger speaks. The elder confirms with his presence.
He has 500 words now. Not fluent speech, but enough to be understood if he moves slowly.
The water is gone. We are alive. The hill still stands. But winter is coming, and there are 800 of us, and there is very little. I need work, every day. Whoever can fish, go to the lake. Whoever knows how to plow, go to the fields. Whoever knows how to build, build. Whoever knows nothing, you will learn.
Silence. 800 faces looking at him. He continues, I knew the water would come. I was preparing. You saw the canal, the dam, the shelters, the food. I knew. He pauses. And I know something else. Complete silence. Not a sound from 800 people. 6 moons. The earth will shake in the south. Far from here, it will not reach us, but the people there will run. They will come here, just as you came. We will be more, many more,
and we must be ready.
A voice from the crowd, a man's voice, rough. Where do you know that from? He answers the way he always answers. I know it, the same way I knew about the water.
Silence. Then a woman's voice, quiet and certain. He spoke of water. The water came. He speaks of the earth. The earth will shake.
A murmur runs through the crowd like wind through grass. He lets it run. The seed has been planted. In a week they will begin working, not because he tells them to, but because they are afraid of what comes next. Fear is fuel, dirty and stinking, and the only thing that works when nothing else is available. Construction begins the next day. Not shelters, buildings. The carpenter receives 10 assistants and a task. Long barracks with frames of tree trunks, walls of woven willow coated in clay, reed roofs a palm's thickness, stone ovens at each end.
The bricklayer brothers build communal ovens from stone and clay, 3 of them, each serving 250 people.
The potter fires clay into bowls, jars, storage pots, drainage pipes. Every item made is an item that does not need to be traded for.
The healer is given a shelter and freedom to gather. After the flood, the plain has erupted in growth. The silt has fed the soil, and the grass has gone wild. And within the wild grass, the plants she has been waiting for. 11 days after the flood, the farmers go out to the fields. The silt has dried. The soil is soft and black. They plow with wooden plows, knocked together in 2 days, 4 men harnessed to each one in place of horses. Slow, hard, but the furrows run straight.
3 sacks of saved grain go into that rich black earth. If the harvest is good, 3 sacks become 15.
For 800 people through the winter, not enough. But combined with fish and game and foraging, maybe. He hates that word. His entire plan is built on maybe. The soldier goes onto the plain with 4 men and spears with blacksmith-forged iron tips. On the second day, they return with a carcass, 60 kilograms of meat. For 800 people, that is barely a handful.
But a handful of protein every day is life. He organizes a daily hunt, 5 out at dawn, back by noon, 1 carcass a day, sometimes 2, bones for broth, hides for leather, nothing discarded.
On the 20th day after the flood, the first real conflict. A group of 23 refugees, men, women, children, come to him through their leader, a solid man with a scar across his left cheek.
We are leaving, back east. The water is gone. Our land is there. We will rebuild.
He looks at the man and says, "In 6 moons, the earth shakes in the south. A landslide blocks the western river. Your stream will dry up. A year later, drought. If you leave, you will rebuild and then die of thirst." The man's scar stands white against his tanned skin. He doesn't believe it. You predicted the flood, and the flood came. Now you speak of earthquakes and drought. Always a new reason to stay. Always a reason to work for you. Convenient. He does not argue. The man is right. From the outside, that is exactly how it looks.
He says, "It is your right. Leave. You will have food for 3 days. A fair share."
The man blinks. He expected argument, threats, pleading. Not this. He adds, "You are a free man. I said what I know. You decide what to do with it." The next morning, 23 people walk east with 3 days of food, and a little more because there are 4 children among them.
The other refugees watch them go. He can see the doubt on their faces, the desire to follow, to go home.
He says nothing, does not warn them, does not try to hold them. That evening, the young foreman comes quietly. 3 more want to leave tomorrow.
He nods. Well,
The foreman says, "If everyone leaves, we cannot survive the winter. We need every pair of hands." He replies, "If I keep people here by force, this is a prison. People escape prisons. People stay in a camp that feeds and protects them. Make it better here than anywhere else, and they will stay.
3 left the next day, 4 more after that. Then it stopped. No one else went.
782 people. It has to be enough.
On the 30th day after the flood, the first barrack is complete.
20 meters long, walls of double-coated willow clay, reed roof a palm thick, sleeping planks along both walls, stone oven at the far end with clay pipes the potter fired all week.
40 people move in. He stands at the entrance and listens to the sounds coming through. Conversation, laughter, someone swearing over a sleeping spot, a child crying. Ordinary sounds. The sound of people under a roof instead of a canopy. He nods to the carpenter. Next.
The carpenter is not just a builder. He is a foreman who can organize 10 inexperienced workers to do the work of 5 skilled ones. Each barrack is finished faster than the last. First, 10 days. Second, 8. Sixth, 4. An assembly line running without him. One crew fells and drags logs. The second raises the frame. The third weaves the walls. The fourth applies clay. The fifth lays the roof. Each crew begins when the previous one finishes its section.
He did not design this system. The carpenter did. He simply saw it and approved.
The dam needs repair. The flood has subsided, but the western section has sunk by half a meter. The eastern side is eroded, and 3 cracks run through the body of the middle section.
He assigns 20 men to repairs, new people who have never held a shovel, townspeople from the trading settlement on the river that no longer exists, merchants, scribes, servants. They dig slowly and poorly, but they dig.
Among them, he finds the accountant, 35 years old, sharp-faced and quick-eyed, carrying an abacus and parchment scrolls he saved from the flood in a sack. He sits the accountant down and dictates for the first time what he has been keeping entirely in his head.
782 people total, 490 able-bodied, 140 children under 12, 80 elderly and sick, 72 nursing mothers.
Supplies: grain for 12 days, fish for 8, beans for 5. Daily consumption: 400 portions minimum. Production: 40 portions of fish daily, 20 from foraging. Harvest in 3.5 months.
Shortfall: 340 portions per day, every day, for 100 days before the harvest arrives.
He looks at the figures written in neat columns on the parchment. Beautiful handwriting and terrifying numbers. Then he looks out at the plain, green and erupting with life, the silt feeding the soil faster than anything he has ever seen. And in that green, brown shapes moving, wild cattle from the western foothills, grazing by the dozens on the new growth.
Meat, the hunting teams, the fishing camp, foraging, the planted grain, all of it woven together into a supply line that barely reaches across the gap between now and harvest.
By the 60th day after the flood, the food supply has stabilized. Not well, but stable. People are thin, losing weight, eating less than they want. No one has died of hunger yet. And the moment that balance holds, he begins thinking about the earthquake.
Brown marker, south. 5 months remaining. 300 kilometers away. Too far to shake the hill. Close enough for the consequences to arrive.
He counts the southern settlements on the map. 3 major cities in the impact zone. Population between 1,000 and 3,000 each. If half survive and a quarter make it north, between 500 and 2,000 new people. There are already 782 on the hill. Add 2,000 and that is nearly 3,000. 3,000 people on a hilltop in the middle of a plain. A city, a real city that does not exist yet and must exist before the earthquake comes.
He stands at the highest point of the hill with the map before him and looks in every direction.
North, marshy floodplain, useless. East, lowland, dangerous. West, grove and hills, viable but cut off by a lowland that could flood. South, The plane rises gradually toward a rocky ridge 5 kilometers away. Dry, stable, enough elevation to be safe.
South is the answer. The city will grow toward the ridge. From the hill to the rock, 5 kilometers of gentle climb, block by block, neighborhood by neighborhood, each one self-sufficient, each one a unit that can feed and shelter and defend 200 people.
He marks out the first block on the southern slope himself. Stakes and rocky soil, ropes stretched between them, spaces laid out for 4 barracks, a well at the center, an oven, a storage shed.
The next morning, 100 people stand on the empty slope and look at the pattern of stakes. He says one word: dig foundation trenches.
They dig. The soil is thin over limestone. The shovels clatter against rock after 1 bayonet's depth.
But rock does not wash away. Rock does not shift. The masons look at each other, and the elder brother says, "Limestone, soft to work, durable for walls. If we break it layer by layer, we get blocks."
He hands them the wedges. The blacksmith has made 10 more over the past month, and they begin. Wedge into track. Blow. Chip. Block. Wedge. Blow. Chip. Block. Stone by disaster by disaster. The man who died on a rooftop in a different world builds a city on a hill that will be the last one standing, because the only thing he has ever known how to do with a problem is refuse to stop working.